Do you remember a time when the world seemed simpler? A time of booming suburbs, chrome-covered cars, and a feeling of boundless optimism in the air. This was the 1950s, a unique decade that stood between the hardship of the past and the uncertainty of the future. It was a time that gave birth to teenage culture as we know it, filled with sights, sounds, and experiences that have become legendary. So, take a trip with us back to that golden age as we rediscover the things you might remember if you're from the 50s. Before every person had their own playlist, music was a shared experience, and the heart of that experience was the jukebox. You'd walk into the local diner or soda shop, and there it was, standing in the corner like a glowing, bubbling cathedral of sound. It was a machine that played music, often found in pubs and bars, where you could choose a song by pressing buttons with letters and numbers on them. For just a coin, you could become the DJ for the entire room, filling the space with the sounds of Elvis Presley, Chuck Berry, or the Platters. In the 1940s and 50s, jukeboxes were incredibly popular, with 3/4 of all records sold in America being placed into them. They revolutionized music, giving artists a new way to sell their songs and giving teenagers a soundtrack for their lives. Do you remember huddling around it with your friends, debating which song to play next? The whir of the mechanism, the satisfying clunk as the vinyl record dropped into place. That was the sound of happiness. It was more than a machine. It was the curator of our youthful memories, one song at a time. And where did you go to dance to that jukebox music? You went to the sock hop, also known as a record hop. This was a casual dance event for teenagers, often held in high school gymnasiums or cafeterias. The name sock hop came from a very practical rule. Participants had to take off their hard-soled shoes to protect the polished gymnasium floor. So there you were, sliding across the floor in your socks, dancing the jitterbug or the stroll to the biggest hits, played from vinyl records by a disc jockey or sometimes even a live band. These events started as fundraisers during World War II, but by 1948, they became a full-blown trend among American teenagers. This was one of the first times teenagers had their own social space, their own music, and their own rituals. It was a world away from the formal dances of their parents. The sock hop was loud, energetic, and a little bit sweaty. It was the place you went to meet your crush, hang out with your friends, and feel for the first time like you were part of a generation. A place where the price of admission was just a pair of clean socks and a willingness to dance your heart out. And if you were a teenage girl at a sock hop, chances are you were wearing a poodle skirt. This wasn't just a piece of clothing. It was the official uniform of the 1950s girl. It was a wide, swingy skirt made of felt, usually in a single bright color, like pink, blue, or red. And on it, an iconic design was attached, most famously, a stylized poodle on a leash. Later, other designs like flamingos, flowers, or hot rod cars were also used. The story goes that the first poodle skirt was designed in 1947 by a young woman named Julie Lynn Charlotte, who needed a Christmas skirt, but had little money or sewing skills. She crafted a seamless circle skirt from felt, and its popularity grew so fast that she soon opened her own factory. It became the first true teenage fashion trend, allowing girls to express their personal interests with different appliques. Paired with a blouse, saddle shoes, and a ponytail, the poodle skirt was more than an outfit. It was a symbol of youthful innocence and fun. The simple, swinging skirt that let every girl wear her personality right on her hip. While teenagers were dancing, a much simpler phenomenon was taking over backyards across America. It was just a plastic ring. But in 1958, the hula hoop became one of the biggest fads in history. The toy company Wham-O introduced their plastic version after its founders saw children in Australia playing with bamboo hoops in gym class. The result was an absolute sensation. They sold 25 million hula hoops in just 2 months and made $45 million in the first year alone. It seemed so simple. You just spin the hoop around your waist, arms, or neck. But it was addictively fun. Adults bought them for their kids, but often ended up trying them out themselves. Parks, playgrounds, and college campuses were filled with people trying to master the motion, laughing as the hoop clattered to the ground again and again. It was a simple, joyful, and universal craze that brought people together, powered by nothing more than a plastic circle and a bit of rhythm. The toy that had the entire nation, from kids to grandparents, spinning in circles with a smile. Back at home, another revolution was taking place this time, in the kitchen. If you peeked into a freezer in the 1950s, you would likely find the futuristic meal that changed dinner time forever. The TV dinner. These frozen convenience foods, famously launched by the company Swanson in 1954, were a smash hit. They sold over 25 million in their first year. The concept was born from a mix-up with Thanksgiving leftovers, when a salesman had the clever idea to package a full turkey dinner into a partitioned aluminum tray. For families, it was magic. You just took the tray from the freezer, heated it in the oven, and dinner was served. No pots and pans, no major cleanup. It gave families the freedom to eat together in the living room, gathered around the glow of the television set. Over time, the options evolved, but everyone remembers those classic Swanson turkey dinners. They may not have been gourmet, but they represented progress, convenience, and a new, modern way of life. The meal in a foil tray that gave our parents a break and gave us permission to finally eat in front of the TV. Do you remember the sound of clinking glass bottles on the porch in the early morning? For generations, the Milkman, with his daily rounds delivering fresh milk, was a common and welcome sight in neighborhoods across the country. The tradition dates all the way back to the late 1700s. Customers would leave a note, and the milkman would deliver the next day, placing the fresh milk in an insulated box left on the doorstep. It was a system built on trust and personal service. But the 1950s marked the beginning of the end for this beloved tradition. The widespread adoption of home refrigerators meant people no longer needed daily milk deliveries. The rise of large grocery stores offered a convenient one-stop shop. And as more families owned cars and moved to the suburbs, home delivery became less necessary and more costly. By the end of the decade, the friendly milkman and his clinking glass bottles were slowly fading away, becoming a nostalgic symbol of a simpler, more personal time we've left behind. A quiet, friendly service that disappeared when our refrigerators got cold and our grocery stores got big. From the roar of the drive-in to the quiet clink of milk bottles on the porch, the 1950s was a decade of profound change, creating memories that have lasted a lifetime. What is the one thing from this era that you miss the most? Share your story in the comments below. Thank you for taking this trip down memory lane with us. And be sure to like and subscribe for more journeys into our shared past.